We got some gardeners.
Yeah, I got the hose back. What would you do today if you were brave? You know, I was thinking as she was singing that song, and she sang it in the first service too, by the way, so I was thinking about it then. What would I do if I were brave? What would I do if I didn't have a doubt about what the Spirit was urging me on to do? What would I do that it was beyond what I was doing now? And thinking it might be a little more than I'm doing. How about you? Today's lesson is called Life Requires Participation. And I was thinking, it was inspired by a quote that I heard from Stuart Scott. Stuart Scott was an ESPN anchor, sportscaster. And in January, at the age of 49 years old, he died of cancer. He died of stomach cancer. And a while before that, he gave a speech at the ESPY Awards. And he said this: "You don't lose to cancer when you die. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live." That's how you beat cancer. You don't lose to cancer when you die. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live. You see, Stuart Scott got it. He understood that life requires participation. In other words, life requires engagement. Okay? Life requires engagement. It requires that we be present to it. All right? That's what he knew. He understood that's what life is asking us to do, is to be open to it. Is to be open to it. So what is this life that we're supposed to be open to? This life, you know, some of us think when we hear about, oh, you know, what's my life about? We think about all of the things that brought us, all the things in the outer world that brought us to this point in time. We think about our childhood and where we grew up. We think about the house we had and the parents we had, maybe. This where we went to school, the friends we had, that we might have gone off to college or started working. We had friends there, we had a career, we started to make money, maybe we had a family, maybe we had children, maybe we got another education degree. We started to make money, we started to have a career, we had love interests, we had friendships, we had relationships. We had good times and not so good times. We had successes and we had failures. And now we're living where we're living, and we have maybe a whole additional circle of friends and circumstances. And we proudly say, we've built our life. We've built our life. Well, this life is not at all the life I'm going to talk about this morning. Because this life I'm talking about has much more to do than the accomplishments and the circumstances of what we've accomplished out here. It has much more to do than the failures and the successes. This life I'm talking about is the essence of what we are. It is what I talked about when I talked about a few weeks ago, what flows through this hose, through our heart. It flows even with a openness, or it flows restricted when we put kinks in the hose. But it is life itself, this cosmic energy and force, this same energy and force, this same energy and intelligence that is now creating stars and galaxies millions of light years away from here. Is the same energy that is in you and me. The exact same thing. Trying to come through us based on our ability to let it flow. It's an amazing power, this life. That's the life I'm talking about. And that's the life Stuart Scott was talking about. Because it wasn't about the cancer, it wasn't about the situation about here. It was how I live, why I live, and in the manner in which I live this life, this flow that's coming through me. That's the life we're talking about. Amazing, powerful, divine intelligence existing right here, right now, as you and as me, urging you on, as long as you're open to it, as long as you allow it to flow or not allow it to flow. But the thing about life is it's there, no matter if you're like this or like this. So we've been studying in the class with Mary Morrissey called Prosperity Plus, this idea of life. And she says this about life. She says, life is either lived, this flow is either acknowledged by design or by default. This flow is either acknowledged and engaged in by design or by default. I like to think of it this way. When we engage this life and we are allowing that flow to be uninhibited by anything in our mind that is saying opposite, it puts us squarely in the driver's seat. It puts us squarely in the driver's seat. You know, when you are in the driver's seat, you have got to participate. You have got to pay attention. You are looking at all sorts of road signs, looking out for stoplights, making sure when it turns yellow that you put your foot on the gas enough to get through before it's red. Am I right? You've got to pay attention if you're going to do that and not get a ticket. You look at your mirrors, make sure they're set right. You're either turning on the heat or the air conditioning. You've got to put your GPS on, put the address in there where you're going so you don't get lost. You're tuning the radio or putting the CD in, listening to NPR or your favorite band. You have got to pay attention, and you participate in a gas combustible engine surrounded by metal and fiberglass, and you engage in that energy. You have got to pay attention when you're in the front seat. You've got to participate. Not so much in the back seat. Not so much in the back seat. In the back seat, though, these days, depending on if you have a brand new car, you can participate a lot. You know, you might have your own air conditioning controls. You can certainly do the windows. Not like this, it's like this. Right? There's a lot you can do from the back seat, but here's the thing. You don't determine where you're going if you're in the back seat, do you? You can only participate fully in life in where you're going from the front seat. And many of us have been comfortable in the back seat. Am I right? We've bumped along in our life. We've let circumstances and conditions out here determine if and how and when we're going to do something or not going to do something. And we stay comfortably in the back seat, bumping along. But we never, from the back seat, can guide ourselves to the place we want to be, because you can't do that from the back seat. Here's the thing, it takes courage to be in the front seat. It takes a lot of courage to be present to whatever is happening in your life right here, and to not have a kinked up hose. To not decide that you're too afraid that you got to jump over the seat, get in the back, cower down, cover yourself up, and not see where you're going. It takes a lot of courage to trust in what comes through as life itself. It takes courage. It's not for the faint-hearted. We've got to trust something that's unseen. But trust we must. How do we do that? How do we trust in the flow? How do we do that? How can we even think about doing that? You know, Stuart Scott got it. He got it. Do you hear what he said? When you die, it doesn't mean you lose to cancer. You beat cancer, you engage life by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live. That is the clue. It's not that something is happening, it's how you bring yourself with this flow to that moment. Okay, in the driver's seat. There's a law that speaks to this, that Deepak Chopra talks about in the book called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, or The 7 Spiritual Laws of Life. And I think it really speaks to this idea of how do we do this? How do we stay open to this? It's easy to say, oh yeah, that sounds good, Paula, but how do we actually do it? How do we practice this? Well, I think he gives us a practice. It's based on the law that says this, that is this. It's called the law of least effort. The law of least effort. See, the flow through here doesn't take a lot of effort. It takes surrender, right? We talked about this a couple weeks ago when I talked about the open and closed heart. It doesn't take a lot of work. The law of least effort is built on the idea of what we see in nature. There is nothing in nature that struggles. Have you noticed? There is nothing in nature that struggles. The oak tree that Celestial sang about, the mighty oak that comes out of this seed, there is no struggle. That seed doesn't say, wonder if I should be a cherry tree. That seed doesn't think, how the heck am I going to grow up like the other oaks? I just don't see it happening. You see, there's no doubt in the intelligence that is this cosmic force of life. There's none of that. There's none of that. The blade of grass that you so diligently try to kill in the crack in the sidewalk, it doesn't say, oh my gosh, all this concrete's over me. How am I ever going to see the light? It just does it with effortless ease and abandoned carefreeness. That's what Deepak calls it. This law of least effort. This is how we do it. And there is a way, there is a practice that in this law that we can use to bring ourselves to the moment, no matter what it is, and to use the wisdom from Stuart Scott. And it's one word, and I know you're on the edge of your seats waiting to hear it, because it must be a word that you've probably never heard before, and it's this amazing thing. Well, you've heard it before, and it's called acceptance. Acceptance is a practice of saying to yourself, this is what it is. This is what's in front of me. And I'm going to stay open. I'm going to stay in the driver's seat with it. I'm going to engage it. I'm going to be with it. And I am not going to struggle against it. Because that's what we tend to do. Oh, I got cancer. I'm going to struggle against it. Right? Little things in our life, we want to struggle against them. He's saying, no, to accept it means is to stay in the driver's seat. Stay open to it and resist the tendency to jump in the back. Resist. That's why it takes courage, you see. That's why it takes courage to be in the driver's seat. Because you have to stay open to whatever it is that's out here and not shy away from it. Now, cancer is a pretty big thing that Stuart Scott was dealing with. But I say we have to practice this idea in the small things in our life. We have to practice not struggling against it. Well, some of you know Renee and I have been renovating our house. We started on December 8th, and we're moving in on Tuesday. Wow. So excited. So excited. And I have to say, when I was preparing this lesson and I was thinking about the last 2 months, I was like, whew. You've been doing some struggling against it, Paula. You've been struggling against contractors that don't show up when they've said they're supposed to show up. You've been struggling against contractors who do show up and don't finish their work and don't bother telling you they didn't finish their work. You've been struggling against overhead hoods on your stove with fans running backwards, and what are you going to do about it? You've been struggling against a stove that shows up by UPS freight and the front door is incorrect. And then you order another front door and it comes and the glass is all broken. I've been struggling against so many things. Why? Deepak says, everything is conspired. The whole universe has conspired to bring you this, whatever this is. Why do you struggle against it? What do you think's going to change? The same thing happened to that oven door. We ordered another one. The same thing happened to the contractor who didn't finish. We called him back and he finished. The same result happened. But in the meantime, I was struggling against it because I want to move into my house. But no. This wisdom says stay open to it. Stay open to it. Don't struggle against it. There's no reason for it. You may be struggling against things in your life right now. Oh, what he or she said about me. Oh, you're struggling against it. Maybe you're struggling against stuff that's happening in this church, huh? That could be. Oh, the board's doing this. Oh, the music's that. Oh, Paula's talking about this. Oh, the sound people this. Oh, Annette this. We're struggling against it all. When are we going to get a new minister? Are you struggling against any of that? No. Stop it. Stop struggling. Stop it. Stop struggling. Stay open to it. Let the energy that is the life force in you stay open to it. Okay? Are you hearing me? So when the big things come around, when cancer comes around, you can say, I'm not going to lose to cancer when I die. I'm going to beat cancer by the way I live, by how I live, and in the manner in which I live. And the same thing goes here at Unity. I'm not going to struggle against Unity of Wilmington the way it is now until it gets better. I'm going to engage it now. And my barometer for me is going to be how I live and why I live and in the manner in which I live as I go through this. And I'd like to add, it's not only how you live, but it's why you love and how you love and in the manner in which you love. Because this way of being comes from the heart. Allowing the energy to flow through this hose is the energy of love in you. So don't struggle against it. Embrace it. Engage it. You beat it by engaging it and staying open to it and being loving about it and knowing that all is well, that there's a greater power at work through me. And I just need to show up. Are you hearing that? So my wish for you, my prayer for you, is that you do exactly that. That you take this hose, and you remember this hose when you go out. You can remember it as the steering wheel to stay in the front seat. You can remember it as the flow of life through you, the cosmic energy and force that sustains you and breathes you. Stay open to that, and you will be the amazing being that you already are. Yeah? Don't forget it. Don't forget it. I love you all.